Oh man, I'm so out of it. I wasn't even going to review this one. I wasn't even going to watch it. And that just comes down to the fact that I saw beforehand, like this movie released prior for some critics around the world. I don't know the specifics, but yeah, some people were saying it wasn't that good, And it's not just that, like, it comes down to the fact that I was never really a fan of the Indiana Jones movies. Heck, I don't even think I watched past the first movie, like when I was a kid or whatever. But I forced myself to watch the Indiana Jones movies coming into this one. Probably most of them for the first time. Yeah, probably. I I honestly don't remember watching them. Very stressed for time as well because, wow, like literally last night, what happened? I was so tired after watching the first two movies that I slept from like 10 p.m. to 3 a.m., then watched the remainder two movies, and then slept another 3 hours before watching this fifth and probably final movie. I did have a good time with them, but I'll tell you what I thought about those movies in a bit. Just let me just say right off the bat that I heard some people saying that the fourth movie, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull or whatever it's called, it wasn't that necessary, and like it doesn't really count in terms of the overall kind of thing. And the main movies that you should watch are the first three: Crusade, Temple of Doom, Raiders. I probably named that in the wrong. Yeah, I named that in the wrong order. But people were saying that you should only really watch those, and the fourth one doesn't count or whatever. I think that's. Some people were saying that. Me, I think that's kind of wrong because in this movie there are some references and some callbacks to all of the previous movies, especially the previous one, the fourth one. And I feel like if you didn't watch that movie, I'm so glad I did watch that movie and all of them coming into it because, man, it like you learn a lot about Indiana Jones and his backstory and his relationships with certain characters, like I said, especially in the fourth movie, that in this movie, the fifth one, you will understand a lot more. It makes sense though, but while watching the prior movies, I was thinking to myself, where's the connection? I mean, where's the connection between the movies? Because for the most part, they just felt like standalone adventures, which is fine, but I like stuff that connects with one another, during all these four movies, they had like different sidekicks and different female heroines, that you'd never seen before, and almost like before meeting them or like after meeting them, you feel like you're kind of like missing a part of the story, like before even watching the movie. And this one is no different. Same old indie, but with a new female heroine and sidekick. However, it does feel the most connected out of the bunch. First off, Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones is old now, obviously, and to understand where he's come from, how he has developed as a character, and what he's been through, it is, like I said, important to watch all of the previous films coming to this one, since this film has quite a few references and callbacks. It also feels more connected because it relates to the Nazi storyline that I love from the first and third Indiana Jones movies. A part of me while watching Temple of Doom was like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I have the willpower or energy or like time to watch all of the remaining two before this one, or even like get to watch this movie since, like I said, I was stressed for time. I literally crammed all four movies in like a day when I didn't want to. But yeah, then I rewatched the trailer for this movie again, and then I was like, whoa, I suddenly remembered. Mads Mikkelsen is playing the villain. And I was like, you know what? I'm in. And he did not disappoint. But, I mean, other than that, this movie also looked like a more thrilling, adventurous, and epic movie. One that is making use of modern technologies and for sure is using much better CGI and visual effects than the previous few movies. Which what? Like the last the fourth movie, the previous movie, what released back in 2008 or something? Yeah, this one is exactly that. It is as thrilling and as adventurous as it looks, which I like, and it also looks way better. So if you want to watch a modern Indiana Jones movie and you like the other ones, then this one is definitely a for sure watch. But I'm not going to sit here and just say that these visual effects were the best, and were like the highlight or some of the best parts of this movie. Like, some scenes still looked a bit iffy, if I'm going to be completely honest. And like, some scenes, you could tell how it wasn't that well delivered, visual effects wise, but still, obviously, it still looks better than any of the previous Indiana Jones movies. Look, I'm sure that the Indiana Jones movies were probably pretty good for their time. I mean, I remember watching the first one, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and being like, whoa, wait, this movie was made in the 1980s? Man, looks pretty good for its time. I mean, like, let me know if that's kind of the truth or not. I don't know. I can't say anything more because I didn't grow up with these movies, but that's just how I initially felt. But regardless, like I said, it's great to have a modern Indiana Jones movies where the visual effects are more polished, I guess, and this movie ties the story from the previous movies together in a way too, and is a big nostalgia fest, I bet. Hell, even after I just very recently rewatched through all of the... I didn't rewatch them. When I first watched all of them, even after I did that coming into this one, I still felt a tad nostalgic watching this. So yeah, to sum it up, I did have a lot of fun with this one. There was a sense of urgency, a lot of action, some surprises, and it was pretty thrilling, which is mainly the things I wanted to see coming into it. It was also slightly emotional, but not by much. But you can see they tried, right? Whereas I didn't really feel much emotion really in the previous few movies, but that might be just because of the pretty bad, at least compared to nowadays, pretty bad CGI or visual effects, and the humor that was in the previous few movies. Man, I was laughing pretty. Oh man, some instances in the past few movies got me cracking up, man. But yeah, so because of that, I was a bit let down by how much less humor was in this new movie. There really wasn't much to laugh about, honestly, but it was more fun. I'd argue it was more epic and thrilling than the previous few movies with a bit more action. But in saying that, the action wasn't really there weren't really any creative stunts or anything to really brag about, right? But it kind of also makes sense in a way because, Indiana Jones is old now, he's grown. I mean, I was surprised by how he moved in this movie. It's crazy. As old as he looked, man. I mean, I was surprised he was able to move the way he was able to and throw a punch without his fucking wrist breaking or something like that. I will say though, there's always this one scream that's heard, that's visible in these Indiana Jones movies. I was surprised by how many times I heard it, that every time I heard it, it just broke any kind of immersion or seriousness that the movies had. I think it's called the Wilhelm scream or something, like that scream that you just hear so many times in action movies and even games, I think. I honestly don't know its origins or anything. I just know that it's so prevalent in this. I think I heard it the most in Temple of Doom. But moving on, Dial of Destiny, look, it was also a lot more gruesome and suspenseful. I remember the first and second movies being surprisingly gruesome, and man, it definitely didn't seem PG-13 rated to me. I mean, there was actually blood, and I think maybe the reason why is because the rating system is different from back in the day to today. Who knows? But let's break it down. This movie is the longest Indiana Jones movie, capping out at around 2 hours and 22 minutes. And you can definitely feel its length. but you can also feel the length in the previous few movies too, and that might largely be due to the fact that I didn't really care too much about the treasure that they were hunting for, to be honest, and like I didn't really feel anything or like care about that factor of the movie that much for the most part. It just feels like it's like a wild goose chase going to parts of the world searching for something. I honestly didn't really find myself caring about the treasure aspect of these movies. But I mean, I could be wrong though. I mean, look, I mean, in Temple of Doom, there was a specific reason, and the end result was kind of satisfying. You know, saving all those kids, saving the village, and also it might be the fact that I kind of watching movies at home is a lot different than in theaters because you don't have that many distractions. So I was kind of distracted in some parts while watching the first four movies, and also because I was really tired too. Like I said, I slept at like 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. and then woke up at 3 a.m. to finish the remaining watching of the past Indiana Jones movies. I was really tired that day, and I felt sick in a way, so that might have impacted my viewing. But I mean, even though yes, this movie did drag on a bit and it was kind of like a wild goose chase, I did like the change in environment, atmosphere, and the adventurous mission. At first, we see 1969 America with parades of the balloon landing. And then you see desert, this and that, and jungles, and Italy, and Greece, and whatever. Like, a part of me, like I was kind of getting to before, was worrying coming into this one that, you know, after watching so many different movies, that it would just be your average action film, feeling similar to a lot of other movies of this genre. And a part of me wants to say that it was like that, you know, like I said, it didn't have that many creative stunts or like stuff that you haven't really seen before, right? It didn't really surprise too much until the final act, which I'll get to that. But yeah, this movie, even though like I want to say it was kind of generic, it had a treasure that actually for the first time interested me. And that's what made the final act as like enjoyable. That was crazy, and it just encapsulates how these movies, right, aren't really, you know, that grounded. There's also kind of like a supernatural, like a fictitious vibe of it. And I didn't honestly feel like that was the case coming into these movies. I thought it was just going to be like The Mummy or Tomb Raider, where it's like just real shit. Okay, what am I saying? Okay, I'm brain dead right now. Okay, I can't even think right now. I'm hoping the stuff that I'm saying this review, you know, is my brain's not working today. You could probably tell by how bumpy this review probably is. Ultimately, was a movie that I enjoyed a lot more than I thought I would, and that comes from the thrilling adventure that it provided me. Sure, there was a lot less humor and a lot less creative stunts, but, you know, like I said, Harrison Ford's an old man. Indiana Jones is an old man now, and he cannot move as well as he did. You know, he looks so buff back in Temple of Doom, and yeah. Whew. Look, I think I'm gonna go with what people. It's just what I think too, like what people say on the internet, and I'm gonna go with like, okay, the first movie, Raiders of the Lost Ark, or is it the Raiders of the Ark? I can't remember the name. These names, man, I can't remember them. But that movie, the first one and the third one, were the best, you know, out of the original three. I mean, the second one and the fourth one were probably the worst, but honestly, not by much either, if I might say. Raiders B, Doom B-, Last Crusade B+, Crystal Skull B-, and finally, Indiana Jones Dial of Destiny a B. I'm not gonna lie, I enjoyed Crystal Skull a lot more than I thought I would with what I heard people saying how it was like not that good and stuff like that. I think the only complaint I had in that movie that I can really remember, remember, I literally just watched that movie like 12 hours ago. What am I saying? No, not 12 hours ago. 18 hours ago. But I didn't like how weird the ending was, and that kind of applies to the second movie, Temple of Doom, as well. But no, Temple of Doom was fine compared to what the hell happened at the end of Crystal Skull. Like, what was that? Aliens? UFO? I don't know. It was just really bizarre and weird and just kind of confusing. It's a little bit too bizarre for my taste. Raiders and Last Crusade were more grounded and focused on the Nazis, which I like, and is why I think this movie, Raiders and Last Crusade, were probably the best of the bunch. But even that, like, a lot of people were saying how Raiders was, most people were saying that was their favorite movie, and I think I might have dozed off a bit during that movie. I don't know, but for me, I felt like Last Crusade was better because it's more backstory on Indiana Jones, and it felt more personal of a story to him as well. But honestly, you can't go wrong with both, and like I'm, still siding with most of what people think, saying how the first movie and the third movie were the best, probably. But a lot of people were saying, you know what, this got the lowest rating, and a lot of people were saying how this wasn't the best, but the worst of the bunch of Indiana Jones movies. But for me, no, I think it's like the third or even second. I think this movie's still right. It holds on its own. But part of me still thinks like these movies, man. I've watched too many movies. These movies aren't that special anymore. But does this satisfy as probably the last Indiana Jones movie? I think it's been confirmed. And I would say, yeah, I think it does. To some extent, it does. I mean, maybe not to the best extent. I could have definitely seen ways of improvement for this movie, maybe condensing it down, maybe more that Mads Mikkelsen could have done. But towards the end, I was satisfied. So, hey, there's that. But anyway, guys, that's it. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know what you think down below. Like and sub if you enjoyed. And as always, feel free to check out any of my previous videos. Until next time.